Derek Carr, free agent quarterback after 9 seasons with the Las Vegas Raiders, is expected to sign with the New Orleans Saints. They are closing in on a deal.
Derek can allow one for the end zone for Crabtree. Did he get both feet down? Touchdown! Raiders!
Derek Carr.
Play action. Carr airs it out down the middle for Adams. Got it! Inside the 10. Javante, touchdown!
I'm thankful for my time here in Las Vegas and in Oakland, but comes a time when it's time to move on, and that's this time.
Derek Carr.
Side, Gregory couldn't get him. Here comes Carr, running hard, breaking tackles.
Carr loads up. Adams is open. Walked off, touchdown! A sweep of the Broncos for Las Vegas.
Derek Carr. It's going to be multiple years with the Saints for Derek Carr, so that is the commitment he got from them contractually today. Derek Carr heading to the Saints.
Unbelievable. In a move that has sent shockwaves, tremors, an earthquake in our league. Derek Carr has signed with the New Orleans Saints in a deal that appears to give Carr $100 million guaranteed. Turns out he did have a market, and he is a rich man many, many, many generations over. Although you only get to live in one. But his great-great-grandkids, great spot. But let's focus on the most important thing here. Marc, the odyssey of Derek Carr free agent is over, and the league has changed in a way that we'll never be able to look back and this time again and think anything else but Derek Carr post-Raiders, now Saints.
Yeah, I applaud the appropriate pyrotechnics attached to that whole messaging.
Oh, sorry. We had that planned for months, the Derek Carr signing alarm.
I'm a little disappointed it didn't happen on Sunday, so we couldn't have seen Marc's reaction to the Derek Carr emergency pod.
I was so mad.
I mean, no, I would say Derek Carr wins me over with the timing, which folded in perfectly to the start of our show. I know, Dan, you have some Jet stuff involved here, but I really like the landing spot for Derek Carr. I think that if for anything, just to get off to a good start, with a team that always is going for it, is always aggressive, you're in a division that's very manageable. You go from the AFC West to a totally moribund NFC South, where I think the Saints are automatically the favorite to win that division. No other team in the South really has a manageable, cemented quarterback situation right now. Derek Carr is automatically the best quarterback in the division.
Greggy, I know you hate this move for the Saints.
That's not true.
Really?
I don't hate it.
Well, I saw your tweet, and just
That's
like,
true.
what are they trying to do here?
I think the Saints are very much trying to win 9 to 10 games, and that their ceiling is low, and that they've been trying to do this, and that this group, led by Dennis Allen, which I didn't think should get a second year, is just trying to save his job. Mickey Loomis save his job, and Derek Carr is their best alternative to do that. So, like, if you're a Saints fan, I think you have a chance to go to the playoffs next year. They're probably a slight favorite in that division. So I don't hate it. It's just sort of like a franchise, I think, that's not going anywhere in particular, and Derek Carr is the guy to bring him there.
And Mike Garafolo broke the news. Our own Mike Garafolo, Ian Rappaport has the numbers on it. $100 million guaranteed money during his time at the Saints, includes $60 million due at signing. The Saints are a team perpetually with salary cap issues. They always find a way. His average annual salary, $37.5 million, good for 9th highest AAV among quarterbacks. Of course, there's some guys, Burrows and the like, they're going to push him down
stay
further.
In that place, right?
So this kind of, for me, makes sense contractually as a team match. It makes sense when you do a lot of even though you saw some reporting out there from certain insiders saying that Carr was leaning toward the Jets, or the Jets seemed like the most likely landing spot. It was the Saints who had engaged in trade talks or had met with Carr when he was still a member of the Raiders. And so you knew there was obviously some connection there. And then it becomes the other side of it is like, yes, we know that the Jets had a very productive conversation. We heard all good things that came out of the Carr-Jets talks. And then you just wonder, okay, now does this mean the Jets are getting Aaron Rodgers? Does this mean something else? Does this mean, and for me as a Jets fan, and like I said, it always feels like you're Charlie Brown trying to kick the football, that now that safety net is gone. Carr was the safety net in a lot of ways, and now it's Rodgers or bust. And if Rodgers goes back to the Packers, retires, goes to a different team, then what do the Jets do? So there's definitely some anxiety that comes with it from a New York perspective. But I thought Carr would have been fine with the Jets. He would have been a big upgrade on what they had, obviously. The question I have, Mark, is like, you do the A/B test, for instance, back to the Saints here, A/B test with Andy Dalton, who they had last year, and Derek Carr. Carr's a better quarterback, but is he that much better given the amount they just paid for him? Was this the move to make when you really strip away all the accoutrement and like, how much better did they actually get at the position today? I'm not sure how much better.
I think what I was trying to say before is I like the fit for Derek Carr, where he's going to. I think a team that is like trying to be ultra competitive year after year. And I think Mickey Loomis, this is a win for him in terms of going and getting the guy he wanted. I don't know if I would ever view Derek Carr as a true difference maker. I think that's fair to say that he's got a 9 to 10 win type of guy and a good roster around him. But I think that if you get the best version of Derek Carr, the Saints in a manageable NFC for a couple of years can do well. I mean, I just don't hate it because the Saints are a team that has not drafted a first-round quarterback since 1971, which was Archie Manning. I don't like that. I'm not saying that's the way.
But they say they were going to take Patrick Mahomes if the Chiefs didn't, sneak up.
They very well might have, but they weren't. That wasn't probably going to happen in this draft. So I think they went out and got the guy that they can plug in now. I do have questions about the fact that Dennis Allen is coaching the team.
I do too. I think Dan's point about Dalton is a great one. I don't think quarterback was their issue last year. On one hand, you could look at it and say, okay, Pete Carmichael, who wasn't that popular as the coordinator for the Saints last year, actually coached up Andy Dalton to his highest PFF grade, for what it's worth, of his career. He was the 6th highest graded PFF quarterback in the league. He was just above some of those peak Cincinnati years. And I understand why he got that grade. Partly because he didn't take chances and he made good decisions and he was accurate. And Derek Carr is a much higher ceiling, better version of Andy Dalton, kind of. I kind of love that Andy Dalton brought back the integrity to the Dalton scale last year.
Oh,
I mean, he kind of was he stepped in and he was a mid-level quarterback.
Even through in that Thursday night disaster to just keep everything kind of balanced.
That was the
Big
problem. There was a couple spots where it got a little sideways. But one of my followers on Twitter said maybe this is him passing the torch to Derek Carr.
All right.
And I kind of like that.
We've talked about Carr before in that.
Right. I kind of like that too. So maybe they can coach up Derek Carr to be a better version of Andy Dalton, but they have other issues on that roster that I'm concerned with. They need to stay healthier, and that would help, and have some weapons around Carr. That would certainly help. But I'm not sure they're going to be a difference-making defense. We'll see. I think it's a team that's aiming for that 9 wins. Yeah. And they could do it.
Well, I would say one thing for the Jets, Dan, because I'd ask you, because I think the reason they really liked Carr, it sounded like too, he was a safety net. But the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, waiting for that to pan out. And then Carr, I thought, managed this thing well because he went to the combine. He aggressively, he wasn't placid and sat back. He wanted to find his next opportunity. You got one team saying, we want you today. You got the Jets sort of telepathically saying, we might want you if we don't get Aaron Rodgers.
Can I say one thing before Dan answers? I think that was true. From what I've heard, I think he did lean Jets. And I think that's why you see the money really go up. Now the deal to me, I still need to see more details, but I suspect it's ultimately like 70 for 2 years is really guaranteed. 10 of the third gets guaranteed. It's really 60 for 2 years, and then 10 of the third is guaranteed. And that makes more sense to me. And I think the Saints had to move up because I think he really did like the Jets better, but he also knew he didn't want to get caught waiting for Aaron Rodgers for a week. He has no idea. Right. And so when they came up money-wise, he's like, okay, this makes sense.
But I think everything we know about Derek Carr, he seems to take things very personally. And if you got a team out there saying, we want you as our second best guy. I think that would lean for the Saints really want you. And it's not a deal that we'll see what more about it, that hamstrings them for half a decade.
Yeah. And I think from a leverage standpoint, you could say, if Carr wanted to go to the Jets, why didn't he just wait for the Rodgers thing to play out? And then if Rodgers didn't go to the Jets, sign with the team you like the most in this dance. But then you potentially lose some leverage there. in terms of what the Saints were offering, and
you got to be fair to the Saints.
kinda
They
had
could
to-
move on.
Yep.
Yeah, you had to. He was put in a position where he didn't want to be left out in the cold himself, and end up looking back and saying, "I had this golden opportunity, leverage-wise, as a free agent before everyone else was. I need to hit it in the right way," and I think he did. So good job for Carr. I'm going to throw something out positive now that I meant Andy Dalton. I'll throw out Matthew Stafford, who was a very talented, statistically successful quarterback with Detroit. Better player than Carr, but I think in the same ballpark. And once he went to a team that actually had a defense and had some pieces around him, they won a Super Bowl in Los Angeles. The Saints are probably thinking, let's get this guy that we know is steady and let's build up the roster around him. Maybe we go that route.
I don't hate it from that angle. I mean, I just think that your options were limited if you were the Saints. You're not going to get Aaron Rodgers. They weren't going to get all that best. Robert Saleh made a comparison to Matthew Stafford after meeting with Derek Carr. So
Yeah,
I
I think he'll be good, and I think he's in a dome, and I think he's not in the pressure cooker that is the New York market. I think this was a smart move by Carr, and now we just need to see if this ends in. I'm sure a lot of people will get their yucks if it ends this way, with the Jets having egg on their face for not playing this the right way. They are now fully dependent, in my mind, in terms for this to be a slam dunk for them, on Aaron Rodgers, the guy that I was
that is shaky.
railing against last week for being just a nonsense person at this point on some level. Like him now deciding, I'm leaving this team after 18 years and I'm going to go to New York and need to be the Messiah. But you know what? Maybe he wouldn't mind being the
or
Messiah.
Lamar Jackson if something truly bizarre happened there.
Or Tannehill as a little bit of a backup option.
Yeah.
I to your point about like Carr versus Dalton, that's why for the Jets, I think there's enough quarterbacks out there, even if you're taking a step down the level, that there's not that huge of a difference. I mean, hell, they might end up with Andy Dalton. I know Jets fans would end up with
I was just thinking that
like
myself.
But if they end up with like a next level, it probably won't be Teddy or whoever it is. It's like, is that a big enough difference that I'm going to lose sleep if I was a Jets fan? Maybe, because this does feel like a bit of a window for the Jets to take advantage of these guys, these rookies of the year on their
I
contract.
think if you ended up with Teddy Bridgewater or Gardner Minshew or insert, mezzanine loge guy here, it's like you're going to be majorly bummed because we've spent the last 6 weeks talking about the Jets having a major upgraded quarterback. We'll see. This stuff can go down while we're recording this, and I was actually just thinking that beautiful Derek Carr intro that Justin put together on short notice.
Worthy, I think, of the moment.
What happens if Aaron Rodgers makes his decision? Are we still going to have a minute reel of Derek Carr leading the show?
That will get bumped.
I don't know.
That's what social media is for. I can always just throw it on Twitter and Instagram.
No, my first thought that you had been cooking that up for a while with the idea that it was a Jets lead-in, but then you had to switch it around a little for the Saints business.
Put that together this morning.
I always genuinely thought that Carr was a newsworthy, even shorty episode because it moves things in this very crazy story around the NFL and these veteran QBs. The Lamar thing is interesting too. It's still hanging out there. And like I said last week with the Jets, if this does go against them with Rodgers, I think there's going to be names that are not connected to him that they start kicking the tires on. Let's see what happens.
Tannehill might be one of it. I mean, it wasn't that long ago when a guy like Kirk Cousins changing teams was rare. A guy in the middle of his career that's played at a high level and had big contracts. And that's what Carr is. Now we've seen it happen a few more times. One last detail I do want to give you. And that Saints offense could be interesting. Kamara, you assume he's back. He might have a suspension coming. But I like Juwan.
I think he's definitely going to have a suspension coming.
Yeah, I think he
Olave?
is. Olave. I like Rashid Shaheed. I like Juwan Johnson. Callaway's there as a 4. If you could draft someone, maybe they try to work it out with Michael Thomas. I doubt that. But they're like 1 or 2 players away from interesting. I'm just not sure the defense holds up. One detail, though, and this is from New Orleans Football. .com, NewOrleans.football. It's a pay website by Nick Underhill, and I read some of the details of how they courted Derek Carr, and their first day ended with dinner at Ralph's on the Park in Mid-City in a private room. Very nice, but you might think if you know New Orleans restaurants, well, how about Galatoire's, Emerald's, fancy, great New Orleans restaurant. This is a little more casual, nice place. They know Derek Carr is a T-shirt and shorts guy.
Sure.
He was showing up to meetings last week with GMs at the combine in a hoodie and shorts, even though it's cold. Like he's not about that fancy life, and they knew that scouting
Smart.
report on Carr. Little more casual. Plenty of great casual food places in New Orleans.
Where did the Jets take him, I wonder?
Right.
They took him to a, you know what they took him to? I know exactly where they took him. They took him
hot
to
dog vendor out in the street.
They took him to an Italian
like that,
restaurant in Summit, New Jersey. Like, kind of like, not you don't have to wear a tie, but you should probably wear pants.
Okay.
So maybe that was the difference here.
That's an annoying expense report at this point, that you have to file your probably $500 dinner with Derek Carr, who will not be part of your team now.
I mean, if they end up with the guy they actually want, I think they'll be cool with it. But we shall see. And by the way, mention Matt Stafford. I know nobody's talking about it, but the Rams seem like they're changing directions.
You're right.
They probably wouldn't mind the 13th overall pick or whatever from the Jets. I don't know.
It's a possibility.
It's hope season.
No reporting there. No, that is not a Pellraiser report. I'm just saying, are the Rams really still totally married to the 37, 38-year-old, is he that old? Pellraiser. Quarterback when they are starting to go in a different direction organizationally?
They don't seem married to anything right now.
He is 35.
Oh, he just turned 35. It's already March. How about that? All right, by the way, from the Chris Wessling podcast studio, this is Around the NFL. Just got so excited. And by the way, that was 16 hardcore Derek Carr minutes. Mark, I thought it was good, informative, analysis-driven.
Hold on.
We could have done more.
That was good. That was good.
I know that this has been advertised that I was going to lose my cool if we had to do a Derek Carr episode. All I was ever saying was that I was not going to sign up for a full offseason of Derek Carr turns Team X, probably the Jets, into a Super Bowl contender. He's a good quarterback.
But now that it's happened, that was all unfounded because nobody thinks that about the Saints.
I was concerned that they would say that about the Jets, though. That the Jets are just this quarterback.
I think they could have been. I think with Carr, I think they had a chance in the AFC.
I mean, if you're Carr, you have a much better chance to win the division you've just joined. So I like it again for Carr. We'll see what happens with the destiny of it all.
And just condolences to Mike Garafolo out there. Great job.
Awesome job.
Big breaking story.
We didn't have to bring it up, but this is what makes Gregg on some level. So let him go.
You don't need to do this.
He doesn't.
Well,
you can still back out.
I'm not backing out. I've done it before. You put
Mike's
David Carr into Twitter, and it's the breaking news report. You say David Carr by mistake instead of Derek Carr. You can't delete that, and so you just get 75 jabronis responding with
75.
jokes about David Carr.
How about 75,000?
Maybe more.
Didn't Elon Musk put in like an edit button on the tweets?
It's funny you mentioned that, Mike. I didn't know this, but you have to pay the $8 for Twitter Blue for the edit function. And Mike said now he's given that $8 up.
Can I just say? Let me just say, I am not on board with many of the Musk ideologies and in general
the features.
Now, I will say the editing of a tweet could be dangerous in its own right. But if you're an insider for something like that, I think Rog upstairs and company should be just taking care of all of us. Just protect us, but not even us. Mike,
especially those guys, right, that circle of
Rap Sheet, whoever it may be. It's breaking news.
I'm not paying
give him the edit.
But I personally will not pay a cent to Elon Musk and his
Oh,
camp
hell
for.
No. Well, you have two Teslas though.
I definitely do not.
All right. From the Chris Wessling podcast studio, it's Around the NFL. Dan Hanzus, Gregg Rosenthal, Marc Sessler. The Combine wrapped up over the weekend from Indianapolis. We're going to share some takes, some winners and losers from that particular event. But before we get to that, let's get caught up on the news from over the weekend and beyond. Hit it.
My daughter's shy, but she wanted to know if your dolls wanted some of her pizza.
Thanks, but no thanks. They don't need the calories, and frankly, neither does your daughter.
Travis Kelce was on Saturday Night Live as the guest host this weekend from Studio 8H, and I thought he did excellent. I said it to my wife. We watched it on Sunday morning. I said it to my wife, oh, this is going to be bad. And it was not bad. There was some cue card reading, as is always the case, even with, seasoned actors in the guest host role. But he does have natural charisma. He showed a sense of humor. Jason Kelce popped up in a couple sketches. I give it if you're ranking it from Fran Tarkenton, Eli Manning, Peyton. Who else has been on it in the NFL? Joe Montana, famously.
Tarkenton was a big SNL.
He was the first one.
Okay,
he was the first NFL player. I would put Kelce near the top, if not at the top. Peyton, of course, as well. Did very well. Did you guys happen to catch it?
I watched a few skits and the monologue, and I would put him at the top. I'm not saying like the skits were all total genius and they cracked me up, but he was better than some actors they throw in SNL who are just like dramatic actors and are stiff and can't do it. I was kind of shocked. Like he was he was comfortable. Like he wasn't nervous at all. Good job by Travis
I have
Kelce.
yet to watch it, but I am not surprised that like the NFL star player of today and of the future will continue to just get better and better at this kind of stuff than guys that had Joe Montana had actually a great skit back in the day, but you could tell Joe Montana had no idea what was going on around him.
Right, but Wes
Travis
always would
Kelce's
talk
is
about
natural.
that Peyton Manning wasn't really funny. He was he was just funny on the scale of athletes. And I don't know if Kelce is necessarily funny, although he's funny in these skits, but as a performer, he was like good on a scale of performing. Like that was a good job by him. Much higher on a scale of athletes. I would put him number one of anyone I saw, of just like actually he could go do that.
I think Peyton is legitimately talented in terms of this realm for where he is, and because of that comfort in front of the camera. And that's like, go watch the Michael Phelps SNL. Like some of these go really sideways. It's the guys that look comfortable, and it's not surprising that Kelce, to your point, athletes are kind of wired a little differently today, and they have a brand, and they go out of their way to be involved with other projects. And I think you see it with a guy like
what if
Kelce.
You can roll out like Kirk Cousins out there, a trained stage actor who stunned us during
I'll
the
watch
honors.
anything that has Kirk Cousins involved with it. Like Claybon audibly laughed when I said I was looking forward to seeing Kirk Cousins in this Netflix quarterback show. Mm-hmm. I want to know more about Kirk Cousins.
I'm with you.
He would be terrible on SNL. And by the way, that sketch was Travis Kelce sitting alone at a table at an American Girl cafe with two little dolls. And I think he's like a pervert creep in the sketch. I like that there was a lot of weird stuff going on.
I enjoyed that. Was one of the two sketches I watched.
Subversive.
And I liked it.
All right, we are back. Let's do some more news. Let's start with the Rams. I mentioned it. Listen, Matthew Stafford is back. Sean McVay is back. But the Rams are going in a different direction, or they're changing gears at the very least. Let's go down a couple moves that they're either making or are planning or hoping to make. The Rams are expected to release edge rusher Leonard Floyd, a move that would clear some cap space. Floyd was a key member of their championship team. They also are looking to get rid of Allen Robinson off their roster after what was a bit of a disastrous one-year 2022 season for Allen Robinson, in which he came in with a ton of hype. We interviewed him. Remember, we interviewed him at training camp, and everything seemed to be hunky-dory, but it was a really rough season for Robinson, and they have given him permission to seek a trade. Greggy, with Robinson, does this connect to the fact that it's not a great free agent market and the Rams see an opportunity here to get rid of this guy and offload some of this money?
I just don't think they want him on the team. And so, yes, I think they're just hoping someone will pay, let's say, $5 million of his $15 million. I mean, they're taking the L. They're accepting the L. He has $15 million guaranteed. Did you say that? That's crazy to me that he has $15 million guaranteed, and they're willing to.
It's crazy now, but remember last summer when almost everyone was universally of the opinion this was a perfect match.
I didn't think it was a bad deal. I think it's crazy that they have 15 guaranteed now, and that they're just saying, we'll take the L. What's the best we can get? We know we're not really going to get a pick for him. We'll get like a late round pick swap, like a 6th for a 7th, just so it saves us money. And we're hoping you take, let's say, half of that money off the books. We'll take that as a win, and we'll save some cap space.
Yeah, I mean, as of now, he's also got a $26 million price tag in dead cap money. So I think the Rams that's exactly right. They got to move on from this. Jalen Ramsey is trade bait right now. It's like this team, to me, like is basically doubling down on what happened last season in terms of the most disappointing follow-up to the previous year. I mean, this Rams team looks entirely different. And, Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, a couple months ago, we want to do this together. I'm committed to Sean McVay. I want to stick around as a quarterback. If you're Matthew Stafford, and they have a lot of work to do on their offensive line, you're taking away Allen Robinson, who was a failure last year to begin with, and it looked like he didn't want to play in Chicago the year before that. I mean, the Rams are falling apart before your eyes. How do you sell this to Stafford as hang around here? This makes a lot of sense for you after an dangerously injury-plagued 2022.
That's why they're a tough team to figure out, and why I'm wondering if there's just more to come here about how they're going to play their offseason. Because, yes, if Floyd's gone, Robinson, if they dump him, and then Jalen Ramsey just being traded, which sounds like it's going to happen.
Wagner gone.
Yep. Great call. Wagner's gone. It's like, what are they trying to do with this team? Are they just looking to be competitive this year, or are they going to do something more radical? I
think they're trying to take the pain now and set up for 2024. The Floyd move surprised me more because he's had 9 sacks in each of the last 3 years. He's still like a decent player. If they make him a post-June 1st cut, they do open up $15 million in cap space. They're in trouble cap space-wise. And I'm trying to explain this. I told Ellis about these moves on the way to school today.
What's her headspace? What's her deal?
She wasn't happy. She's like, I like Floyd. Robinson wasn't good.
She cursed off Robinson all season in the living room, so...
Yeah, Robinson was a bust. She also took him on her fantasy team, so that was a disaster. Wagner, she just couldn't understand Wagner, and I'm trying to explain. Well, there's a salary cap, and you're trying to set up maybe for 2024, and trying to explain this to she's like, but that was he was one of their better players. There's not really a good answer for it, and then the heartbreaking moment was, well, as long as they're not trying to get rid of Jalen Ramsey, then I'm fine. I was like, well, that could happen.
She has the same sort of pressing questions that any guy in a tavern.
That's
who roots
what I
for
mean.
The Rams
it's like
would
there
have,
actually isn't a real explanation,
a
real explanation that makes it easier.
Just indulge me. So if this is kind of like a reset year, does that mean they're expecting to be back and ready to contend as soon as next season? In which case, okay, then Matthew Stafford at age 36, okay, you can talk yourself into if his body holds up. Aaron Donald, he'll probably retire before you even entertain the idea of answering a phone call about him. Something seems a little bit like we don't know everything.
It feels malleable, where I think a couple months ago, it's like, of course Matthew Stafford's coming back.
I still feel, of course, but I think that's more of just a personal thing that I just don't think he'd wanna, and I think they feel like they owe it to him. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and also the financials of it are seemingly impossible to get rid of him. Just the way they signed his contract. I guess you could always rework it if he was really willing
Feels like
to.
they could find a way to.
The cap hit on a trade would end their lives. They couldn't eat. They would have to change everything around. I think he's there. Personally. I
struggle with the they owe it to him angle, where they're taking their biggest names and throwing them into the mist.
Right,
what are they owing him?
In their mind, they're probably like, if we get lean and mean, can we still be competitive, lean and mean this year without these guys? They probably think they can be, and then they're setting up to be better.
They played last year without half these guys to begin with.
So. Trade Stafford and sign Geno. Let's just get crazy. All right, Josh Jacobs, the Raiders, they made. You can't kind of spin it any other way. A financial mistake when they chose not to pick up his rookie 5th-year option, because now they've put the tag on him, which is worth more money than what his final rookie year deal would have been. So Josh Jacobs, coming off a year in which he led the league in rushing and was just a stud all season long, back with the Raiders on at least a 1-year deal. We'll see if they get anything done before the deadline. Also, Tony Pollard, running back for the Cowboys, who had a breakout season last year, unfortunately suffered that leg injury in the playoffs, but he will be tagged as well. We'll see if that leads to anything, and that includes Zeke Elliott maybe disappearing into the mist himself in Dallas. So the franchise tag deadline is on Tuesday, so this is really the last opportunity now for these teams to get their house in order on this front.
Running backs really get boned financially compared to other positions. It's not a breaking news, but the tag is kind of part of it. You can look at a guy like Jacobs, because I'm thinking about this when you think about Bijan Robinson and the upcoming draft classes. You can get him for 5 years, including the 5th-year option. And then you get him on the tag. The tag this year is only $10 million for running back. So a 1-year, $10 million. To me, that's not much money. Because you're not paying it into the future. For all these other positions, it's like guaranteed. You just get him for 1 more year at 10. You're getting the very best of Josh Jacobs. You're getting hopefully the best of Pollard, and then you say goodbye. You kind of get the best years of their lives in the first 5 or 6 years of their career, and they don't ever get that long-term money.
I think it's if you're the Raiders or if you're a Raiders fan, before you hand big money to Josh Jacobs, he's been hot and cold his whole career. He was all hot last season, but is that who he is for the next 3-4 years? Like, I'd much rather tag him. If I were the Raiders where you sit in the draft, you could take Bijan Robinson, who is getting comped to like LaDainian Tomlinson. So I don't know if this is. I mean,
think
they're not going to do that.
This would eliminate that for the Raiders.
No, they're not going to do it because I think they're going to have to go quarterback because of the situation they put themselves in. But I don't mind getting Josh Jacobs for 1 more year, find out who he really is, and then go from there.
Your eyes really raised when I said this is a good number. I mean, I think that's a good number for Tony Pollard.
I'm looking at the recent history of the franchise tag. It shouldn't be a surprise besides kickers and punters. Running back is the lowest number at $10 million this year.
Tight end is absurd.
4 years ago, and keep in mind the salary cap has gone up substantially. People are getting more money than ever before. The salary cap or the franchise tag for running back in 2019 was 11.2. So it's gone down. It is up slightly from the year before when it was 9.6. But yeah, what is the 5th-year rookie contract? What did they pass on giving him?
It wouldn't have been much more, I don't think, because he was a late round pick. But I can find that out for you.
I chalked it up to regime change. Like they came in and weren't totally sold on the idea.
Right. I'm almost a little surprised they kept him, but then I looked, they have more cap space than they're one of those teams that more cap space than they really need. So I guess why not?
All right. So
I do like the Cowboys need weapons, and I think Jerry Jones has been talking about it at the Combine. I think they're going to be aggressive. I don't know how exactly, but maybe in the trade they could be one of those teams in the trade market. So letting Pollard go to me would have been a mistake.
Well, and Jerry Jones has specifically mentioned Odell Beckham again, still interested, and they've been named as a target for Jalen Ramsey as well.
Getting Odell Beckham and expecting that to be what puts your offense over the top feels like a very
Jerry Jones.
My team hasn't appeared in the NFC title game in 27 straight years type of move to make at this point.
Jacobs would have gotten $8 million on the 5th-year option, so they only ended up paying 2 more. The Daniel Jones decision to not give him the 5th-year option proved more costly, and yet I can't bang on them at all about it because it made sense at the time.
And
it made sense.
No, we're not really talking about Daniel Jones right now, but I feel totally comfortable if I'm a Giants fan how they're playing this because don't back down here. Make them do it over a full season before you give them a Derek Carr's contract. He's actually asking for more than Carr, reportedly.
45 plus.
All right. Notable cuts. The Vikings cut leading tackler Eric Kendricks. He hits the free agency list where he comes in at number for Gregg.
He did not crack the 101. Although I'm rethinking it after hearing some feedback that, last year was a new scheme. Some of these linebackers at that age do bounce back, but I was a little worried as just like, oh, there's the decline. You don't want to pay an older linebacker.
The Jaguars will either cut or trade Shaq Griffin, and the Titans say goodbye to Bud Dupree. And speaking of the Titans, we'll bring in the gravedigger on this one. Mike Silver, our former colleague here at NFL Media, reports that Derrick Henry is indeed being shopped by the Titans. And, Silver has connections, and this all makes sense. To me, it's 2 words, the analysis, he gone. What do you think, Justin? Makes no sense for him to be on that team at this point to me. But what do you think, Justin?
I agree. I think the Titans are in a spot where they need to plan for 2024. This team's not winning the Super Bowl in 2023. Get what you can now for Derrick Henry while he still has trade value. There's also talk that the Titans have called the Bears to see what the cost would be to move up to number 1. That would be a little crazy to me because, again, you're not in position to win now.
Well, that makes more sense then. To me, that makes sense because I mentioned the Cardinals would be my pick to have the worst roster in the league. If the Titans get rid of Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, they're right there.
Yeah.
They're right there.
Yeah, definitely. And Tannehill to the Jets seems, this has been, there have been rumblings about that potential connection for a couple of weeks now, even though the Jets have been more linked to Rodgers and Carr until today. But, that seems like a pretty realistic possibility. If the Titans want to go the full rebuild route, trade Tannehill, use those picks to come up to number 1, get your quarterback, use the rest of the picks you got from Tannehill or whatever, build. I mean, they still need to build an offensive line. So to me, bringing in a rookie quarterback behind what they have right now could be problematic for development sake, but I definitely think Henry is a potential trade candidate. Depends, like, what is it worth to them to trade him? Like, are you trading him for like a 6th-round pick? Is that worth it?
I would think what makes him very compelling as a piece to move is I think he would have much more value than a typical veteran running back. I'm not saying 1st-round pick, but could you get a 2nd-rounder from a team, a content? Obviously,
if not, why bother?
Yeah, but
that's
like, you're not gonna if you're trading for Derrick Henry.
I think you could.
You're a Bills type team. You're a Cowboys type team. You're insert playoff team that didn't get over the hump. That's looking for a final piece. He's not gonna get traded to a bad team. So like that, let's say then it's probably maybe a late 2nd rounder. Would you be okay with that as a Titans fan? I feel like that's fair compensation for a running back approaching age 30.
I would be okay with it. I think Titans fans might go crazy because of A.J. Brown last year and like Derrick Henry this year. It's like, oh, the 2 best players on offense the franchise has seen in years.
It stinks, but it's true.
Well, what if 2 years in a row you make that trade to the Eagles? Can you imagine Derrick Henry in the Eagles' backfield with Jalen Hurts?
That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Now Justin's eyebrows.
Or the
raised.
Bills, though. The Bills would be they are looking to move on from Devin Singletary.
The Cowboys would have a lot of money tied up with Tony Pollard and Derrick Henry together, but like Henry has never been the pass catcher.
Derrick Henry on my team.
He's never been the pass catching guy.
Run that
Like
dang ball.
pairing him with Tony Pollard could be a really interesting backfield.
What did Zaddy just say last week?
Yeah,
I want to run the ball. I don't like having a good offense. I want to have a running ball offense. I like this guy. He's a really great runner. He runs over people. He's fast.
If I'm Mike McCarthy and I'm selling this Zaddy energy, I wouldn't be standing next to Derrick Henry too much. Derrick Henry, who we met in person. Derrick Henry is from he's from another planet. He literally looks like one of the most.
There's only one type of body that would be something that people would be
got very
interested in.
I have also we're at odds with this. I've never seen Mike McCarthy as a Zaddy. We have different philosophies about it. I'm willing to let it.
But I'm just saying,
having
masculine curves isn't something that's a turnoff to everyone.
I think it's fine to be
Some
curvy.
people like
you can be
to
curvy.
get under a blanket and get a little big spoon action.
Yeah, but you're assuming that my only knock on Mike McCarthy is curviness. Curviness is one of the 12 things.
You're body shaming Mike McCarthy.
I am not. I'm saying he does not fit the Zaddy profile that I think of when I think of Zaddy. I don't see him as a Zaddy on any level. I spoke for myself. Right there.
But you didn't say it. You said it as a matter of fact.
I think
rather than an opinion.
I think 99.9% of humans standing next to Derrick Henry would look lesser because of that. Like Derrick Henry, I'm more complimenting Derrick Henry, a human being.
That famous Deion Lewis picture where he kind of looked like a munchkin.
He's got a great body, Derrick Henry.
That's all I was trying to say.
I have a conspiracy theory about your Titans, though. They got that stadium deal done. Last October, locked up all that
How's that practice
money?
facility go?
No,
that's Carolina. Sorry.
That's not it. It's more that we're not going to bottom out and stink and get rid of all of our good players if we didn't already have that sweet money coming in the stadium deal done, because that's a big deal. Like, it's asking a lot for your fans to go through what the Titans appear to be headed towards. They do have the 11th pick overall. Maybe they don't have to go up to number 1. This is a class with at least 2 quarterbacks I think people are really intrigued by, if not 3.
If not 4.
Right, if not 4. Maybe they just end up going up to 5 or whatever it is, and they get their quarterback. Because Mike Vrabel's never started over from scratch at quarterback. He's just been taking other guys, never had his own rookie.
It's about a year ago that Gregg
not counting Willis.
went utterly nuts on like the Bills stadium situation,
Right.
telling
like,
you and I that
this
is about people's real job. What was that whole situation, Gregg? You were like deep in the weeds on something to do with their
public funding for the
it's
stadium.
like
civic shaming Dan and I.
Well, I just mean these billionaires.
We weren't civic minded enough. Apparently,
we're seeing it with the Commanders. You can literally be the worst owner in the history of the sport up there, and then you can sell the team for like $6 billion. So I don't need you to be taking money out of Peter and Mary's mouth to make a stadium. Figure it out.
Mary. What about Paul? No, you're absolutely right, Gregg. And you are a champion of the common man. You've proven it with this take, and you resurfaced it.
I don't know why, because it was a powerful take. So yeah,
windmill dunk.
Just as powerful
for
a year
Gregg
later
on behalf of the common man.
I mean, it's obvious.
I side with the billionaires. Take advantage of the city. take your leverage and make them
Me and all
build
my
for
friends
you.
are jerks.
All right, I think that covers it. That's what's happening in the news. Before we move on, I really hope Aaron Rodgers doesn't make even if it's the Jets, I'll still be annoyed because it will put us in a very difficult position with our Derek Carr Open if Aaron Rodgers makes a decision today before this show goes live and we have to do surgery.
Yeah, think about us for once, please.
I can't. I can only think about Derek Carr getting that moment.
Let's finish this show. Let's get it out.
Get it out.
And then if the Rodgers news happens, we're doubling up.
Doubling up. Double header. ATN double header. How about that, Marc?
So like, if I'm, driving around LA, I have to cycle back to the office to do an episode here. That's what we're doing.
I mean, it's a gargantuan story in the NFL.
We might.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be here.
Might be remote.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll find out where I am at that point. We'll see
That's
how
true.
remote
I
we
got
am.
that garage set up,
I might be with you in your garage at that point.
All right. Let's talk about the combine. Let's put a bow on that. In Indianapolis, some winners and losers. I was on the text thread with Marc, Edward Sessler, and Gregg, Peter,
come on.
Rosenthal.
I'm not a Peter.
Stewart.
That's my brother's name. I don't know how you pulled that out because I think I did mention he went by Dean
Carl?
Stewart
Is
as
it
a
Gregg
musician.
Carl Rosenthal?
It's Gregg Michael Rosenthal. Very
Nice.
very traditional.
Very nice. I like it. Is it? Well, Gregg's not traditional spelling. Is Michael have a different spelling?
No.
Mikel.
No, Michael is spelled as you would expect.
Anyway, on the text thread, Marc doubled down and was saying how much he was into the draft this year. So you have a number of winners and losers. And Gregg, I want you to dive in on this as well and share things that really jumped out to you. Who were the winners? Who were the losers? You just raised your eyebrows now, Gregg. Do you not have winners and losers?
No, I do.
Okay, good. Marc, what jumped out to you? A winner from the combine.
Well, I'd start with the quarterbacks with Anthony Richardson because, I think that I don't know if quarterbacks in the combine, whether you throw or you don't, are going to really change your destiny that much. I would be concerned if teams were wowed by that alone. But the workout of Anthony Richardson, I thought it was well illustrated by what NFL Research put out as a tweet that shows how unusual he is. He is 6'4" 1/4 inches, which is taller than George Kittle. As a quarterback, he weighs more than Hassan Reddick. He has bigger hands than DeAndre Hopkins, a higher vertical jump than Devontae Adams, and a longer broad jump than Odell Beckham. He really essentially worked out as a star wide receiver. He's also, as a quarterback, though, I think you have to realize, there's obviously the project aspect to him. His completion percentage is about as low as possible for anyone who would be drafted. It was under 55%. He's only started 13 games. But I think from the physical angle, when you watch his tape, it's like, wait a minute, someone is going to be absolutely fascinated with the idea of turning him into what he could be.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to diving in more to his tape. But from what I've watched, if you compare him to previous prospects and think about who he's closest to, those guys went high. I think his profile is better or similar to Trey Lance's. I think his profile is very similar to Josh Allen's, but it was in a SEC offense. I think he's not as limited in terms of the type of quarterback trying to stay in the pocket as people are making it out to be. And the numbers are just outrageous. They're Josh Allen freak, Cam Newton freak, except even faster somehow numbers. And you look at how Jalen Hurts was able to develop, who, you would think Richardson can be that sort of runner. And you can just imagine a team wanting to take him. And I know Lance brought up Malik Willis. It's there's no way that Malik Willis would have, even though he got pushed up by the mock drafters. If Anthony Richardson was in that last draft, I still think he would have been the first. He would have been the first one taken. They were very different prospects to me, and so to be off the charts, this athletic, he still might be the third quarterback in this draft behind Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. But it's just hard for me to think that he's going to slip past the top 10, and so he's going to be a big story, and you never know. He might sneak in front of one of those two quarterbacks.
He is a huge gamble for obvious reasons that you guys just brought up. And, Lance, who knows this stuff. And he said, he cited him. He's the first name that Lance said, like, he's going to come out of this and people are going to be in love because he's so athletic. But then the people that are connecting him to Josh Allen's a unicorn. Like, it's very rare to see a guy be a scattershot, big athletic passer with accuracy issues, clean that up and become a plus accuracy.
And he wasn't
guy.
accurate on Saturday, by the way, either. He missed throws on the field.
Like, if you draft him, you have to prepare for like two potentially very different outcomes here. And I think he referred to himself as Lamar Newton when people are asking Richardson to comp himself.
I mean, he grew up with Cam Newton as his favorite player.
Right. It used to be 10 years ago when we were doing this, people would say Michael Vick. Now we need that hyper athletic. It's a Cam Newton type, a Lamar type. Yes, great.
I think he actually said he was Cam Jackson.
Jackson.
He was fascinated with Cam Newton.
Because Lamar, that name pops. I would have went Lamar Newton.
But there is, to your point about, I mean, the
Cam's good too, though.
Where he'd wind up is all over the map because only two quarterbacks, Christian Hackenberg and Trace McSorley, were selected in the draft with lower completion percentage than him at the college level. Trey Lance also, but that was because of a Corona altered season. But I guess you're hoping, what happened to Josh Allen with his completion percentage, with his accuracy over a couple seasons, you duplicate with this. But Josh
Allen's
Allen
the comp because they're the similar size, and
but that's an outlier that you can do that with a quarterback.
Yeah.
You're going to improve, no doubt. But that also came with a Bills team that was blessed with Brian Daboll working with Josh Allen. Like, the team that takes him better have the right guys around to develop him quickly, because you're going to want to. No fan base is going to sit there in a losing situation with this player on the bench.
Seems like a guy we'll talk about plenty. I feel like C.J. Stroud's gotten weirdly lost in the shuffle here, and then DJ saying that's one of the best just throwing performances he's ever seen at the combine. And you watch him, and he's just deadly accurate. And that reminds me a little bit of Baker Mayfield, but I don't think in a good way and in a bad way. That Baker was incredibly accurate, but I think C.J. Stroud definitely has a better reputation for the way he can see the field and manage the game. It's funny to see quarterbacks come out now and they're facing criticism that he didn't run enough. And we'll see, he didn't really run there at the combine either, but he had some moments in the national semifinals. But just the way he spins it, I mean, I think you would feel really good if your team gets him. And it doesn't feel like it's a total lock that we know who's going to go 1 and 2. We kind of know that the Bears are trading this pick. At this point, Poles has essentially said Fields is our guy, all but said that, and that we're likely to trade the pick. And who knows? It sounds like some teams will like Stroud better than Bryce Young, who measured in at 5'10", because Stroud's just a little more typical. And yeah, he's not I don't know, one of the great quarterback prospects of the last 5 years, but he's a guy who I think would probably go in the top 5 every year. It's not like he's a weird prospect that's getting pushed up.
He was, by the way, Bryce Young was barely 5'10".
Yeah.
Right. Now that's something Lance kind of tamped that down a little bit. He's they could structure all that and help him with those things, but that is not big.
Well, they also say that
204 pounds.
He can process on the field like Patrick Mahomes in chaos, and that he's probably tougher to catch than Kyler Murray. So, he's armed with gifts that can, fend off some of the size concern, but I think durability will always be an issue for him.
It's going to be a fun draft unless that trade comes really early, because I just got to think that who goes 1 is going to depend on who makes that trade. Trayvon Walker went 1. I think he only went 1 because the Jaguars picked first. If anyone else was picking first, Trayvon Walker wouldn't have gone first. But I think that's going to be the case here, where different teams have different quarterbacks first.
Well, I think you could have 4 quarterbacks in the first 5 choice for selections if you have the right people trading up.
This isn't 2020 hindsight, but that always felt so strange last year. The way that whole top of the draft played out with Walker being the number 1 pick. Do you agree with me on that, Justin? Though, even in the moment, it was okay, you're so sure about this guy, but what? That's part of the process. Sometimes.
DJ did have your boy Sauce number 2 overall on his board, and I think he had Hutchinson 1, and either of those picks look like they would have been a better idea.
All right, Greg,
better.
how about a loser?
Oh, loser.
I thought you gave a winner. I thought Stroud kind of showed out a little bit.
The combine's more about the winners, but that's fair. Who do I want to go with loser? You got a loser,
Well,
Marc?
there's one very clear loser. Andrew Voorhees, the USC guard who tore his ACL. That's about the worst possible scenario at all. I think the only thing I'd kind of watching the wideouts, it's kind of a small group of wide receivers where unless you're
Wide receivers in general were losers, but Jordan Addison would have been the one that stood out as a loser. So if you wanted one, I
think Quentin Johnson, if anything, can say I'm a different looking wide receiver than the rest of these guys. He's like 6'4", but it's a weird group, which I think also sort of makes guys like Odell Beckham a winner in free agency if you can't rely on the draft as in past years to completely change your passing game.
So Addison is a smaller receiver. DJ's got him 1, but a lot of other people might have him 4 or 5. It doesn't seem like it's a great receiver class compared to the last few years. They might get pushed up. But Addison didn't run the 40 fast, and then he didn't finish his workout just because of it. And you got to be. I do worry. I know weight's not as big a deal as it used to be, but Devonta Smith is strong as hell and fast as hell. So if you're 174 pounds and you're not super fast, that worries me. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba had a great day, though. His 3-cone was insane. Just the way he moves on the field. He looks like one of those Amon-Ra St. Brown type of guys that's just going to get open no matter where you put him. So he might be one.
He looked the part
on a
time.
lot of people's wide receiver list.
How about another winner, Marc?
Let's see. I will.
Marc.
I will go with my dude, Lucas Van Ness, because I think there was. Is he just a?
Is that your giant dude that you love?
Is he just a hot bod? It's I thought he did really well, and I think he's someone that's going to continue to climb because it's he had a 7.023 cone, a excellent 10-yard split, short shuttle. He looks just amazing. I mean, it's the kind of thing that all these guys.
Derrick Henry, amazing.
Yeah. I mean, for his position, I think he's up there. Yep. I mean, it's the kind of thing where it's if I'm a fan of a team, if he's on, he's immediately my favorite defensive player.
Yeah, I think he's just so strong looking. He reminds me of a little bit of a poor man's Clowney coming out.
Mm-hmm. Nolan Smith.
Maybe he goes high. How high though? Top 15? Who knows? How about Kalijah Kancey? I just like saying that name. You're a defensive tackle that can run a 40 that fast. All the cornerbacks, it felt were super fast, and the wide receivers were slow. I looked at it, and I'm just kind of diving in, and so it's interesting to see what positions are good in this class and which ones aren't. It seems like a great cornerback class if you need one, a bad safety class, a really bad linebacker class, maybe not a good class for offensive line. Maybe it's an average offensive lineman class. But yeah, wide receivers, I feel like this is going to be the first year where they don't get pushed up. If there was a Garrett Wilson in this class, he might be going top 5 because he would just stand out so much. Whereas last year there were so many good receivers.
Nolan Smith, the edge rusher out of Georgia, ran a faster 40 time, 4.39 than DeAndre. They did the thing where they showed him running against DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon Diggs. And this is an edge rusher running faster than that. Now you've got these guys on defense that are faster than wide receivers.
Christian Gonzalez might be the number 1 cornerback, and you mentioned just looking the part. And I'm no scout, but Christian Gonzalez, just when he's in those drills and his numbers were amazing, and he might be a top 10 pick, he might be a top 5 pick, who knows? He might be the top cornerback. He just looks kind of like Sauce. Just looked like a real great cornerback right off the jump. He's not at that level of a prospect, but it will be mentioned of roughly 15,000 times between now and then that his sister is Marc's newsletter subject, wife. From Hard Knocks.
Wow.
That David Blau's wife, who was on that Olympics team, is Christian Gonzalez's sister. What a family. And I think this could be an extension and a real bump for the newsletter.
Good bloodlines. Did you guys mention that Nolan Smith ran the same 40 time as Justin Jefferson?
Well, not exactly, but he did
faster
mention
than Hopkins, faster than, Stephon Diggs.
That is outrageous.
That doesn't seem right.
I do like some.
It does not seem right.
Some Zay Flowers. He's nice. How about Tulane as a winner? That'll be my last.
Okay,
winner.
Go ahead.
Dorian Williams, an off-ball linebacker, might be the number 1 weak side guy in this class. But it might not be he had a monster workout, and then people are finally catching up to Tajay Spears, Tulane's running back, who's gonna, really live up to the legacy of Mewelde Moore and Matt Forte. Just the way he moves. He really is the type of running back that I would love regardless if he went to Tulane. He's probably more of a 2nd-round pick, maybe the 3rd or 4th running back, but he just looks
You know
good.
who we got to check back in with? It's been a couple of years. Bob Bates, DDS, my father-in-law, Baylor, booster, and he came on the show a few years back to hype up Denzel Mims.
He's had a rough road with these Baylor players.
That was a tough one. That was a bad beat. Although Mims is still under contract with the Jets, he hasn't made a big impact. Let's see what's going on. He's got some Big 12 takes, some Bears takes. I'm gonna check in with him.
I think it's the right time to do that.
Absolutely, it's draft season, baby. Jackpot, baby. Anything else, boys?
Well, what did you think of Will Levis? I know you mentioned him. I
thought
Lance.
he looked very good with his shirt.
Jackpot, baby!
His shirt sleeveless.
I love he's totally confident in his own ability.
He's buff, as my boys like to use that term a lot. He showed accuracy, which was a major issue. Now, does that mean much to me? Like you're throwing in an empty stadium to guys running alone? Doesn't mean a ton to me.
Well, we're told it's not supposed to mean anything too. So
right.
I just assume it doesn't.
I still do wonder why more and more teams aren't sending their staff to the combine. Like as a football fan, what am I to take of this weekend? It's a bit of a La Ravia Magnifico to me on that front. So I struggle with the combine every year. In terms of.
It's just, for me, like a good place to start even just learning about the players, even if the combine itself is.
And then you mentioned
great.
Andrew Voorhees blowing out his ACL, and that's OU's Wanya Morris blowing out his hamstring, and it's just like you already got all the game tape, you already got the pro day, for these guys. But I will say this: I will end all that. Who cares? I will end it with a positive note about our colleagues here. NFL Network does an awesome job with the combine. Because it could be a very dry watch because it is highly repetitive. But I really do love how they take all the past prospects who became stars and impact players.
Mm-hmm.
And now, especially in the HD 4K era, like you have all this footage from the last 10 years even where you could splice in this stuff and it all looks so good. They really do almost gamify it a little bit. So shout out to Uke and Q and everybody, their teams for making an event that I don't have a ton of interest in. Like when I do tune in, I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like seeing Aaron Donald racing against so-and-so. Like this is cool.
It's like 30 hours of live television is not an easy chore.
Right. Rich Eisen and Daniel Jeremiah do an awesome job. It's good to hear kind of the DJ download and of just all the information he's built up. And it just makes me think why not start a podcast about the draft? Jeremiah.
It just seems like
it's
connect some
becoming
dots.
bigger and bigger every year.
At a certain point, it goes. You could say the bosses should be coming up with this idea, but DJ, there's an asset here.
Mm-hmm.
Make something of yourself.
I mean, you just think DJ, who I thought was a visionary on some level, would show some vision on that front.
All right.
I do like that Darnell Washington, by the way. He's like 6'7" tight end from Georgia. It's a very good tight end class.
That is interesting to me.
The way he was
there are a lot of tight end prospects in this draft.
I
class.
loved the comparisons for him because you think tall tight end, they're usually a little stiff. He was kind of compared to Mercedes Lewis, and Mercedes Lewis was a high pick coming out, so maybe he tested well too. But Darnell Washington was moving around like a man that big should not be moving around. And yeah, there could be 3 or 4 tight ends taken in the first round or the first 35 picks. And yeah, DJ thinks it's the best tight end class in at least 10 years.
Round 1 tight end to hit, truly hit. And
we're
Pitts,
waiting
it's
on
too early,
on Kyle Pitts,
but who really has hit the last guy?
I think Hawkinson, I'd say, he was. I think Hawkinson was fantastic last year.
He's
with
like
the
a 10th overall pick.
Yeah,
you traded him.
He was.
Yeah,
I think Hawkinson was like a solid single to left. If not with a big stretch, maybe he returns the first.
He rounded first, big turn.
Ultimately, he was probably about what you would want for a top 10 pick, but you want a little. You're hoping for a little more. You're hoping for a little more.
You go back to OJ Howard. Remember he was a chemist. Noah Fant. I would be a little bit buyer beware in the first round just because of the history of the position, but you're hearing a lot of big hype about some of these tight ends.
Right, Mayer, who didn't run like crazy, is kind of the Jason Witten type, maybe a first round guy. Kincaid, who DJ has in the top 10 or 12 picks overall. Now Washington, maybe Luke Musgrave, who's athletic. It's a lot of good options.
Can you remind me, Mr. Gravedigger? We're going to try to get Jeremiah on the show. Maybe we could pitch the idea of a draft related podcast. I want to talk to him about the tight ends and why maybe it doesn't always translate and why he thinks these guys could. That's a good little topic.
Another reminder, the Ravens drafted Hayden Hurst in the first round. In
Another
the same
single.
year, they took Lamar. They took Hayden Hurst before they took Lamar Jackson.
That's amazing.
We do
Hayden
have
Hurst
some
was a
breaking
ground
news,
ball
by
through
the way.
left side of the infield. Yes.
We have some breaking news.
Not even a big round. Yes. Mark.
Out of Jacksonville, Calvin Ridley has been reinstated by the NFL. I thought it was one of the quietly great trades of last offseason.
Feels more like
He's back.
developing news, but
What was your breaking news the other week? That like your
Don't use Gregg as the bar.
No, but your
though.
grandparent like repainted his
He's
house or something.
defecating on the breaking
I mean,
news.
all my grandparents are dead, so it's painful.
Well, that would be
That's a tough
breaking
one.
news. That would be
Brought that
breaking
up,
news.
yeah.
Though.
That's a tough one. We knew that was happening, but it's good to know. The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to have many weapons with a really ascendant young quarterback.
Good sitch.
Good sitch.
Classic good sitch.
We need breaking news to bust out of the slump. We need like Aaron Rodgers to happen in the middle of the show. It needs its dignity back. The breaking news drop.
We would ruin that great Derek Carr open.
We can't.
Have you ever been that hot in Las Vegas?
Not that hot. It's probably why I'm going somewhere else.
I like Derek Carr. It would have been cool. He was on the Jets, but good luck to Mr. Carr and the Saints. All right, we will be back on Wednesday. Of course, we are on call for any big news. Really, what is the big Lamar or Rodgers now, right? That's what we're on call for, unless there's something else that we don't see coming, which happens in sports.
Breaking newsworthy, you mean?
Something.
Yeah.
What if Daniel Jones and the Giants come to terms before the franchise tag deadline?
Nope. Wednesday.
No.
That's earth shaking, but no, probably not. Otherwise, you'll hear us on Wednesday. Do we want to check in with the League of 32?
Yeah, let's
in
do
a
it.
certain type of way.
I think start looking
that's a good
ahead to
idea.
next week. It's going to be a little wild.
What is next week, Greggy?
The start of free agency.
A boom. The new league year. Free agency. It's all happening. Thank you to everybody. Until Wednesday, or perhaps before. Zuzzer signing off for the old boss and Quiet Storm and Grave Digger. Till Wednesday, heed the call.